Your positive action combined with positive thinking results in success. Chief Kira. Hey hustlers, my name is Christian and I'm the host of The Hustle Show, where we have real, no filter conversation with successful entrepreneur to go over the harsh reality behind entrepreneurship. I'm super pumped to have you here, and before we begin, I want to take a few seconds to thank our sponsors who make this possible. This episode is brought to you by YouTube Hustlers, my new mastery course to rank your videos to the top. Get early access to my beta program at thehustleshow.co/YouTube Hustlers. And Audible, get a free audiobook download by visiting thehustleshow.co/audiobooks. Thank you so very much for joining me on another episode of The Hustle Show, number 28. Today's hustling story is from Toby Miller, a tremendous successful entrepreneur who is going to share how important it is to take massive action from everything and anything you learn in life every single day. He built an e-commerce store to over 1 million in sales in just 12 months. That is insane. He's now guiding others how to build an empire online, all while working from home, which is amazing. And remember that all the show notes for this episode and a way to connect with Toby today will be available at thehustleshow.co/THS28, along with our free book club and many other free courses and value that we're providing for you completely free. So I suggest you go check out thehustleshow.co and check out all the stuff that we have for you, okay? You are also able to, if you're listening this on our podcast experience, you can go on the website and watch the video experience and the conversation on video as well. And before we jump into the call with Toby, I would love for you to subscribe right now to the show. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to our podcast audio experience, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. It will mean the world to me. I would really appreciate, and you will be helping a lot of other people to find the show and to tune in to every episode of The Hustle Show that we provide out there for free for everybody, okay? So make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. So let's jump in the call with Toby Miller and let's hear his story. All right, hustlers. So in today's episode, we have Toby. Welcome, Toby.
Hey, thanks for having me, Christian. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, I'm super pumped, man. I'm very excited to share your story because, you know, I resonate a little bit with it. I'm actually in retail, and I know you come with a background where your family had a retail store, and you know, I'm very eager to hear the story of how not having a website, you build a website and you crashed it online, man. So everybody that is listening, I think you guys are gonna enjoy this episode because you know, Toby's gonna share some real gold nuggets. I have that feeling, man, because of your story. It's like, okay, let's hear it out. So let's start with that. I mean, how did you get involved into online marketing to begin with?
Yeah, so you know, my father had a retail store, and I grew up in it. You know, after school, I was working, and I was in college, and people were saying, "Oh my gosh, I love this store. It's so unique. Do you have a website? Do you have a website? Do you have a website?" Because we were in a tourist area, and they were like, "We don't have anything like this back home." I got a little bit of help from one of my buddies. He helped me build the website. And the first day, I don't know, maybe it's 2 or 3 days after I had the website up and running, I came home from a long day. It was dead in the store. And remember back in those AOL days, and you had that "you've got mail," right?
Right.
"You've got mail," and I'm like, "What?" Oh, so I go check my you know, my computer after dinner, and I made $120 online that day. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I made $120, you know, today," and you know, it didn't work for that at all. So I was, you know, of course, the work had already been put in building the website and all. So I called my buddy. I'm like, "Hey, I didn't send anybody to the website. How did I get this sale?" He's like, "Oh, it's called SEO." And I'm like, "SEO?" So I go to Google and I'm finding out what SEO is. And yeah, I stumbled upon this video. This guy, Andy Jenkins, and he had this community, and he was interviewing this girl who had done over $1 million online in sales following his training. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, if I could do just a tenth of that, I'd be, you know, stoked," right?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm fired up. I'm excited. I'm watching the video, and he says, "Hey, if you join our community, it's $1 for the first 30 days, and then it goes to $797 per month." And I'm like, that's $1. What do I have to lose, right? So he's like, oh, and bonus, if you act now, you can come to our 3-day live event. And it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it just so happened, it's like 11 o'clock at night on a Thursday that I see this. The event's the next morning. So luckily it's in Atlanta. It was about a 3.5-hour drive from me. And I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to Atlanta. I'm going to this event. And, you know, she looks at me like, hey, are you crazy? Right? What are you doing? You know,
Right.
But my wife's always been extremely supportive and done anything, you know, supported me and done anything to help me. And so she's like, okay, if you think it's going to work, go do it. Right. And I know a lot of the listeners here probably, you know, have similar circumstances to that. You know, they buy courses, they want to buy courses, all this stuff. And maybe their, you know, spouse or family thinks they're crazy. And I'm here to tell you that my wife had that same thing for a second, you know. And then when I explained to her, she saw how passionate I was about it and how determined I was and committed to make this work for my family. So I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, like literally like 5-6 hours later, drive to Atlanta, go to this event. And I meet Andy and talking to all the speakers on stage, learning all this stuff. And it was a brand new world to me, right? I knew nothing about any of this stuff. And of course now it's Facebook ads and Instagram ads, but back then it was Google AdWords and SEO. You know, how to dominate the search engines, how to get, you know, rank your products on page 1 of Google. So I'm learning all this information at the event, and I'm going home and I'm studying and I'm learning all this stuff for the next, it's probably been about 3 weeks. And I suddenly have this realization, holy crap, in, you know, 7 days or 8 days, whatever it was, I've got an $800 payment due for this. And I'm like, I think I checked the bank account. I think I had like $200 or $300 in the checking account at that time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to start taking massive action on the stuff that I'm learning. I'm like, new strategy, learn one thing, then implement it, right? So I start learning. I'm like, okay, I've already learned some things. So I start implementing like one thing per day. And I managed to make enough sales and make enough profit to pay the $800 the next week. And I was like, yes, this buys me another month. I'm going to be smarter this time around. I'm not going to spend all my time, you know, searching and learning. I'm going to learn one thing and implement it. And I did this, and it worked for me. And I continued doing this, and I took the business to over $1 million in the next 12 months.
That's amazing, man. That's a really interesting story to hear. You know, you came out of the nowhere, you know, not knowing a bit of what you were doing, but you had the passion to figure it out.
Yeah, I still remember back in those days. I mean, I was working 8 to 12 hours a day in the retail store, and then I was going home and staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, every night.
Right.
Every night.
Right.
It was the hustle, you know.
Yeah, and that's part of like you know, I don't know if you know, but I have actually a green tea retail business, and I hear you, and I know the crazy hours, and when the mall's dead, it's like, oh my God, and then the mall's packed, and it's like, oh my God, we don't have enough people to cover it. So it's hectic, you know. It's very different from owning an e-commerce store or a business or an online business. Over here, it's too many things going on. It's like you gotta control too many things. But you know, looking back on your story, and you said that, you know, you kind of took a leap of faith trying to invest in yourself on something that you didn't know that it was going to work or not. But did you doubt yourself in any way that you could actually make it work for you?
No, I mean, my wife and I had, I think our daughter was like 1 year old at the time. And I knew that, you know, that was the goal at that time, was to create enough money to, you know, take care of this added expense. And, you know, I just so happened to do a lot better than that because I had to make it work. So I was so committed to just taking massive action. You know, initially that first month, it was learn. And then I learned that very valuable lesson, you know, learn, then implement. All the knowledge in the world doesn't mean anything if you're not taking massive action.
Yes, I love that. And I always tell that, you know, everybody, all the hustlers that are listening to us, doesn't matter how many hundreds or thousands of books you read, if you don't implement what you learn from the book, it's nonsense. So I love that, man.
Yeah. And that's a strategy that I've, you know, a skill that I've learned, you know, back then, because it was such a peak emotional experience for me that I didn't want to lose that community. So I had to take so much action to make that $800 so quickly. And now, like the same thing, you're talking about books here. I'm a very avid reader, but I don't finish the books. And the reason being is whether it's chapter 1 or chapter 3 that I get to, I learn something and I'm like, close the book, put it down, and I just go start doing it. And then like, a couple months later, someone's like, hey, have you read such and such book? I'm like, yeah, I loved it. And they're like talking about something in chapter 17. I'm like, oh, I didn't get that far. I got to chapter 3 and then took action.
I love that, because that's what happens to me all the time, man. I have like 3 or 4 that are in the middle, because I got an idea and I closed it and I started doing it and I never came back to it. Now I don't feel as guilty. At least somebody else is like me.
Yeah, I mean, we get what we need out of it. And, I'd rather read 3 chapters of a book and take massive action on something than to read the entire book and not take action at all.
Yeah, I love that, man. And I mean, you were trying to support your family and you were trying to do all these crazy things, but of course you had no idea it was going to explode like this. But what did it look like for the first 6 months that you were trying to figure out, that you were trying to learn, implement? How were those 6 months for you?
Oh, so it was there was just so much hustle there. I was having so much fun learning all these new things. I've always been, one that likes to read and learn. So to me, it was like a game. It was like, oh, how can we? And there were major tier 1 keywords, like huge keywords that got tons of traffic on Google that I had 6 or 7 out of the top 10 spots on Google for. So to me, it was like a game, right? A lot of people like to play video games or go golfing or go fishing. But to me, my game was just dominating page 1 of Google. And so I was having fun while I was doing it. And then the money was, that was awesome too, right?
Right.
I was so excited about it. And it was like, can I rank number 1? How can I rank number 1? And I would go out and do all this competitive analysis on my competitors. And then I would just go out and find what worked well for them. And then I would just go out and do it better.
How long did it take you to rank those terms?
Some of the keywords, a couple months, some of them, 6 months to a year. It just depended. The more competitive the niche is, the harder it was to rank. Also, but it was the more profitable. So what I did was I went after the low-hanging fruit first. And then that helped to build momentum to get me up to, to those major keywords.
That's great, man. That's great. And I did SEO in my, a few years ago too. So I actually ranked an e-commerce store nationally too. We were doing lingerie, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was not fun to sell in the customer service side. The fun part was trying to rank the keywords. Yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting journey, man. And I mean, after you started your website, the 6 months go by. For how many years did you have this website running, and that you were in charge of?
Yeah, so I still own this e-commerce store today. But now what we were probably raking it in for, I don't know, 5 to 7 years, something like that. And life was good. And I was, at this point we had three kids. Fast forward a few years, we're now from 1 kid to a family of 5. And so we're out doing soccer on the weekends and basketball and all this stuff. And I still had the retail store. So I kind of neglected that a little bit, because I was out, busy raising a family and things were going well. And so here's another, tough lesson that I learned, the hard way. It's not always, 0 to $1 million on the internet. I had an employee working for me and trusted him too much, didn't pay as much attention to the details as I should have. And he wound up embezzling over $100,000 from me. So here I went from being on top of the world, beautiful family, making good money, to nearly going bankrupt. Because I did not pay attention to the small things in my business. And so I had to reinvent myself again, right? So a lot of those product lines I lost. I was having a challenge, working with some of the vendors. And so I said, you know what? I still got my health. I still got my family. And I still got the skills. I still know how to rank products on Google. I still know how. And at this point, I've already ranked products on Google. I've done email marketing. Facebook ads, built sales funnels. At this point, through these last 7 years, I've pretty much mastered just about anything and everything out there that I've set my mind to, because, Google's a plethora of information out there. Anything we want to learn, we can find it, right? So I knew I had all these skills. So I might have lost that stream of income, but I still had all the skills. So I found I was at a leadership and communication conference, and I bumped into another guy there who was doing internet marketing, and he was talking to me about, affiliate sales is what he was doing. And he had this product that paid $1,000 to $4,000 in commissions. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, with all the skills that I have, I was like, I can build a sales funnel around this one product, and I can make $1,000 to $4,000 in commissions. I was like, this boom. And I had that excitement back, right? So I went from being all depressed, and upset, because I built a fortune and lost it. And so I got that fire back. So I started working 80 hours a week on this. I built this incredible sales funnel, and I built this business up to a 5-figure per month income, and Toby's back, right? So I started helping people to do the same thing here. So for those of you who either want to start an online business, or if you're looking to add an additional stream of income, my advice to you guys is learn one skill and then implement it. So the first thing that you're going to need to be able to start your own online business and to be able to dominate, your niche, is you're going to need a sales funnel, right? So in the old days, we called it a website. Now it's kind of like a sales funnel, because we've got new, tools and techniques out there. So one of the first things that we need is, a product that pays high ticket commissions, because you almost have to use paid traffic anymore. So if we're using paid traffic, we need to have a product that's going to pay a high enough commission, right? So you could go to ClickBank and, it's Commission Junction. There's several other affiliate offers out there, or affiliate companies, and, that promote products. But a lot of times what I've seen on ClickBank is the commissions are $20 to $100. Well, if the commission is $100, one-time sale, and I got to spend, $5, $10, $20, $50 to acquire that product, that customer, right? And then there's no back end for that as well. A lot of times, like, it's tough, right? That's that's a tough sell. So that's why I'm in love with this product that has $1,000 plus in commissions, because I can literally spend $1,000 in Facebook ads to break even on that front end sale, and then there's a back end as well. So step one is find a product, a high quality product. And then set up your sales funnel. And the sales funnel is, you're going to run a Facebook ad to a landing page, right? So there's several tools out there that you can use to build landing pages, ClickFunnels, lead pages. So once you build your landing page, and you got to learn how to write a little bit of copy, do a little split testing to make sure your landing page converts well. And then you got a capture page there. We got to build the list, right? I'm sure you've heard, the money's in the list. Right. So we got email capture there. So then we got to set up an autoresponder, right? We got to email these leads to continue to, bring in sales in the future. So my autoresponder sends the traffic to a webinar, and then I'll do a webinar for, an hour and a half, explaining to people how to do affiliate marketing, how to do all this stuff step by step, how to run their Facebook ads, how to set up a landing page, how to set up an autoresponder. And then we need traffic, right? So now that we've got our sales funnel, we need traffic. So I've got a course, inside of our community, and I'm leveraging, the power of a group here. So there's a Facebook course in there, teaches people how to set up their Facebook page. It teaches them how to, drive traffic, how to split test their ads, how to scale up their Facebook ads, and how to get laser targeted traffic, right? If you're selling, dog bowls, you want to get traffic from, dog lovers on Facebook. It's not going to do you any good to go, target, people who like fishing, right? Although there's some crossover there, but the better targeting would be to target, dog lovers. So all that's in the training as well. And, let's see what else, man. That's, we got ad capture page, autoresponders, webinar sale. Oh, so then, the other thing too is, when I first started off, I was learning all these things, and I was here and I was there and I was all over the place because people, entrepreneurs especially, they get this shiny penny syndrome, right? It's like, oh, look, and so, yeah, you're smiling. I'm sure you've had that as well, right?
Yeah.
Some of our listeners,
Many times, man.
yeah. And that's what happens to us because it doesn't matter where we're at. I was on Facebook this morning scrolling through my news feed, and they were talking about Instagram story ads, and another guy was saying, oh, you got to do paid advertising. Oh, no, you got to do free organic traffic. It's confusing to those who have, that are just getting started. And that's why I've been able to have so much success, and how I've been able to teach so many people how to have success as well. Because if you can follow, paint by numbers, step 1, step 2, step 3, then you can follow the system that I have put together in place now and what I'm using. Yeah, so there we go. So that's what I'm doing now. That's what I'm working on. There's how I've transitioned, from e-commerce to affiliate sales. The offer that I'm promoting now with the sales funnel in place, it's almost surreal because 10 years ago I had to learn all these things, and now with things like ClickFunnels, they've made it so much simpler and easier. And with Facebook, over 350 million people the last I saw on Facebook. There's an endless stream of traffic out there to drive through your sales funnel.
Right. And it's a quite interesting story of how you transition from, when you look back in time now, of course, when you're going through it, it's harder, right? Because you're trying to figure it out. But when you're here right now, you look back and it's like, okay, you went from a retail store to an e-commerce store to now, having your own master, multiple figure sales funnel. So it's interesting to me to hear how you were transitioning, and then to a point where you are now, that you're actually helping a lot of people, teaching them and guiding them. But during these transitions that you basically had to reinvent yourself, did you ever feel like quitting and go get a job or just go do something else because this was too hard?
Yeah, absolutely. When, back when I lost my nest egg and lost that business. Yeah. I mean, I was devastated. I mean, here I had, worked all this time. I'd built up this business, and just to think that it can all come crashing down. Yeah, I was ready to quit. I was ready to give up. And then I just, something clicked, and I was like, okay, I'm sick and tired, so everything's okay until, something happens. Right. And when you're sitting there looking at, your family, and you're like, I got, these people I have to provide and support for. And, that's my why. I want to make sure that my kids have the best of everything, and they have, the opportunity to do anything and everything that they want to do and pursue their dreams and their passions. And so that was my why. That's why I did it. And I relit that fire, and went out there, and I just needed an opportunity to, and when I found this opportunity, I started hustling and took it full steam.
I love it. And I think you mentioned something that is gold nugget there, that it was your why. You had your why very clear. It was not about making the millions or the money. It was, supporting the family. And that was your why. So it didn't matter if you crushed it or you barely made it, the why was the family. So I think it's always very useful, and it's key to always have that clear. Because otherwise, because of that syndrome that you were talking about, the shiny object, when you go after the money or after the success, it's a rabbit hole, because once you get there, you want more and you want more and you want more. And of course, I'm not saying it's that bad. Everybody should always shoot higher. But when you have that why, you actually feel like you're advancing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yesterday I was, working from, I work from home, and I'm in my office on my laptop. And my 4-year-old son comes, running in, and my first instinct was, Dad's working, go. And all he wanted to do was play, right? And so he's, jumping on my back and everything, trying to wrestle and, all this stuff. So I was like, you know what? I was like, all right. So I kind of got at a stopping point. I just played with him for 15 minutes and, played hide and seek, and we were wrestling and, playing tag. And, that was the highlight of my day yesterday, right? Being able on a Monday, in the middle of the day, being able to play with my son. And I got thinking, I was like, if I was trapped in a retail store or at a job, like so many people are out there, this wouldn't be possible And that is why that I love working from, the internet. There's an endless stream of possibilities out there. And today it's so much different than it was when our parents or our grandparents were growing up, where they had to get up and work a 9-to-5 job. And now with the internet, there's so many different avenues and ways for us to make a full-time income online. And when you have your why and it's so strong, that's it. I mean, and you can sit down, learn something, implement it, take massive action. And as long as you stay focused, anyone can do this.
I love it, man. That's a lot of fun to, I don't have a family yet, but, I'm engaged and everything. And it's the same thing. I mean, we get to go out on a Monday night when the bars there's nobody in the bar, but we are there, and we can do what the heck we want. And, it's a lot of fun. Of course, it's tough and it's an emotional ragness, but it's fun. The apps or the pros of it are really fun. But out of those, the what I like to call the entrepreneurial mountains that can be very high, or the valleys that can be very low, what would you think would be one of the worst moments that you went through as an entrepreneur?
Oh, it was definitely that point to where I was at the brink of bankruptcy. Everything I'd built the last 10 years was just come crashing down, and I had to start from zero again. And I know, a few minutes ago you were asking me, like, was I ready to quit and give up? And that was it. That was the point where I was ready to quit and give up. And then I realized that if I'd done something before, that I could do it again. And I went back and I recalled, those 6 or 7 spots on Google where I had dominated the search engines. And I went back to that first, $10,000 day, that first $100,000 month. And I was like, you know what? I did this before. And I look back, it's like, what was I doing then that got me to that point? And it was the hustling, taking massive action, and staying up till 3 a.m. in the morning. And so that's what I started doing again, was, that's what worked for me in the past. And if I did it before, I can do it again.
Right. I love that. That's a great way to come back. And if you figure out the skills and you learn how to get there, you could do it again, over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I bet
the skills away from people.
Right. And I bet the second time was a little easier because you now had the skills.
Yes, absolutely. It was.
Yeah, I love that, man. I mean, it sounds to me like you've come a long way and you've done a lot of great things, and you continue to do so, man. But to all the hustlers that are listening, I want them to, I mean, you've shared a lot of gold nuggets here that I think are gold and are priceless for everybody that is listening. But if there's one thing that the hustlers that are listening to us will take out of this episode, I would like them to hear from you. What would you think is your secret to your success and to everything that you've done in the past?
Yeah, I've talked about this a couple times in different capacities, but it's massive action. I see too many people and hear too many people in Facebook groups and in person saying, oh, I learned how to do this, or I learned how to do that. I took this course. And I'm like, great. What did you do? Right. Because it doesn't matter if you spend $1,000 on that Facebook ads course or $2,000 on this seminar. If you're not taking massive action on it, it doesn't do any good. So what I like to do, and I like the word massive action, because not everything that I try works, right? So I just keep trying until I get something to work. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to continue to just try, if I have to try 5 things or 25 things, at some point, I'm going to find something that works. And then I'm just going to continue to hone in on that and continue to tweak it and make it even better than it already is. So anybody that's listening out there, that's what I would say is, don't go learn a new thing. Go try to do something that you've already learned. And if that doesn't work, pick up and try something else. And then you can always tweak it as you go along. I see too many people try to make sure they lay out a perfect game plan. And I would rather see you spend just a few minutes on a game plan and then go out and take massive action. Like, well, that didn't work. Let's try this. Well, that didn't work. Let's try this. Rather than have this flawless game plan. Because I promise you, in business, in online sales, it's not always going to go exactly according to plan. You better have a backup plan. You better be willing to try different things until something works.
I love it, man. That's great stuff. So everybody that is listening, I hope you take massive action to what Toby's sharing today with us. And whatever, even if you don't want to do a sales funnel, whatever you're doing, just take massive action.
Yes.
Cool deal. All right, man. So I want to change gears a little bit from your story to what I like to call the hustle round, where I don't know, I think you mentioned you've seen a few episodes before, so it's a lot of fun. I basically throw a word at you, and the first word that pops to mind is the one you're gonna say out loud. And the hard part is trying to stick to one word, but do your best. Try your best to say one word. Okay.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Hustle.
Daily,
Work.
24/7.
Employee.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, that's a tough one. Employee, yeah, bad.
Boss.
Me.
Rules.
Break them. Is that a word? Break them.
Absolutely. It is in our world.
There you go.
College.
Unnecessary.
Fear.
Face them.
Weakness.
Strengthen.
Strengths.
Marketing.
Motivation.
Essential.
And last but not least, books.
Yeah, read them.
Awesome. Yeah, there you go, man.
All of mine. Hey, I want to touch on that motivation though.
Okay.
I know it's just a one-word answer, but I feel like this is really important and powerful for people. Is so many times people know how to do certain things, but do you know how to motivate yourself? Right? Because the only difference between those who are out there having tremendous success in anything and everything that they're doing is they know how to motivate themselves. So if someone is a runner and runs every day, like I am, we don't always want to run, but I know how to motivate myself to run because I have my why in place. So I encourage each and everyone listening to this show, just learn a few things that you can do to motivate yourself, whether it's to work out, to start your own business, or to do anything in life. Have 2 or 3 triggers that you can call upon, and perhaps it's your why to get yourself motivated. Because I truly feel like being able to motivate yourself on a split second is one of the most powerful things that you can have for your mindset, for business, life, and anything in general.
It is, and I'm so glad that you wanted to share that with us today because, you know, it's always been one of my passions, trying to figure that out. Like, how do you stay motivated? Like, what do you do? What do you have to do? So always reading constantly and trying to figure it out. And you basically put it, all the books that I've read, you put it in 2 sentences. So, so I love that, man. But it's a real story because when you're hustling and you're doing whatever you're doing, you're an entrepreneur, and it's very easy to lose the motivation because it gets tough, right? It's so much easier to just have a job and keep working the 9 to 5 or just go do something else, right? So much easier. But, we're doing this trying to fulfill our why. And that's when the why comes in. Like when you have your why clear and in front of your nose all the time, 24/7, you can't stop. You won't stop.
Yep.
Yeah, so appreciate you sharing that, man. Really, really do. And I mean, you're doing pretty well, man. And I really, I'm very proud of everything that you're doing, and really wish you a lot of success out there. And I know you will continue to grow. And you're still pretty young, so you're gonna continue to explode it. And this is just the beginning. You're basically just starting to warm up, man.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you.
And just before we leave here, I would love for all the hustlers, if there's a way to connect with you or follow what you're doing, how can they do so?
Yeah. So Facebook, I feel like everyone's on Facebook. So my Facebook profile is facebook.com/I Toby Miller. And you can visit my website, itobymiller.com as well.
Sounds good, man. And I'll make sure that I link this in the show notes so everybody that is listening, they can go to thehustleshow.co/THS28 and they'll be able to, there'll be a click away from connecting with you. So, I just want to appreciate you. And, I feel very grateful that you gave me the chance to share your story, Toby. And, I really appreciate everything that you're doing. And it was a real pleasure to share, your journey with everybody that is listening today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Christian. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share my story. I hope your readers, listeners have found some value in this. And if you guys have any questions, hit me up on Facebook. I'll be more than happy to share anything else that I can to possibly help you guys.
Guys, thanks so much for tuning in to the Hustle Show audio experience. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And even if you didn't, make sure you subscribe to the podcast right now. It's still free. Visit thehustleshow.co for all the show notes and to watch the video experience of this episode. We'll see you soon.